Hello and welcome to our next video in the series. So today what are we looking at? We are exploring some of the best DEXs and AMMs projects across a whole raft of different chains. What's the purpose of this? Well, what I want to do is show you projects that I believe are of interest, and depending on how you're setting up your portfolio and what your risk profile is, some of these might be suitable for you. But bear in mind, number one, I would strongly suggest you've looked at previous videos where we talk about creating your portfolio, the decisions involved there, how far out the risk curve you are willing to go, what's your risk tolerance, how you mitigate that risk, and what upside you're looking for. So it's really important that you have a full understanding of that before you look at this. Secondly, many people will be happy with just buying Bitcoin and that's what's in their portfolio, and that's quite fine. They might go for a mixture of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, and that might be their portfolio, and that's quite fine. Everyone has a different idea and risk level they want to go to and what they're looking from out of crypto investing. Bear in mind, all crypto investing is in absolutely high risk, and within that, some are more high risk than others. What I'm showing you today are high risk in a high risk category, and I've actually broken the video down into two parts. Some are well established DEXs and AMAs or AMMs, while the ones I'll do in the second part of the video or part two are even further out the risk scale. So bear all that in mind. They're all extraordinarily risky. Don't invest more than you're prepared to lose. None of these are recommendations. However, I am showing you projects that I believe are of interest. So with that, let's have a look. So first of all, what I want to do is, of course, I'm going through different chains. So we're looking at Ethereum, Layer 2, Solana, Base, Ton, and others. A quick introduction of what DEXs and AMMs are. So what is a DEX? A DEX is a decentralized exchange allowing peer-to-peer crypto trading without intermediaries. So that means individuals can trade amongst each other without having intermediaries in between. What are AMMs? They're automated market makers. They use liquidity pools instead of trading order books for trading. Don't really be too worried about the differences when we're looking at these, but it's good to have an idea. Why they matter? Well, in all cases, they have lower fees, self-custody, very important, and global accessibility. Key criteria when evaluating DEXs and AMMs. Okay, so you've got the total value locked. The more money they've locked in them, it shows a sign of confidence from investors and others to leave their money in those positions. So that would be a sign of confidence, and it indicates platform liquidity. In other words, if there's a big TVL locked, it's highly likely when you're trying to do a swap that there'll be something to meet it at the other side in that particular currencies you're swapping. Trading volume reflects user activity and adoption, so it just means a lot of people use it, which is usually a pretty good sign. And then the features, so have they multi-chain support? Are the fees low? Have they any unique innovations? User experience, self-explanatory, is it easy to use? And security, of course, it is important that what you're using is secure, that it has been audited by some of the top auditing firms, and that the smart contracts are robust. So these are all things to take into factor when you're looking at something that you might decide to invest in. So with that, let's have a look at a few. So, of course, I suppose the king of DEXs and AMMs is Uniswap. Was the original, built on Ethereum. Now it's across 13 different chains, so it's got big adoption. It's come a long way. It is probably the king in this space. Is there room for growth there? Is there a possibility to invest in this with a good upside? Potentially. TVL here says 4 billion. That's outdated already. I think it's more like 5.5 billion. So let's have a quick look at Uniswap. So here's Uniswap. I've got it in as market cap as averse to price, and it's max. So this is it from start to finish. At one point in time, in May 21, its TVL was market cap, was 22 billion. So it had a huge, really significant market cap. Can it get back up there? Well, if it were to, it's currently at about 5.5 billion market cap. That suggests another 4 to 5x if it were to get back to the same market cap before. Of course, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will ever get back up there, but many would believe it will get there and much more. If the likes of Ethereum does and Ethereum does another 3, 4, 5x from here, it's highly likely that the king of the DEXs on that Ethereum network would also likely do very well. And if this were, for example, to do twice or 3 times its previous all-time high in market cap, then you're looking at 60 to maybe even 80 billion market cap. Considering it's at 5 at the moment, that's a significant upside from here. Anything from a sort of a 6, 7, 8x up as far as the sort of 16x. Of course, it mightn't get to the bottom of that range, or it might go exceed beyond the top. No one knows for sure, but it's just to give people an indication. So is Uniswap a good potential investment? No one can be sure. Again, it depends on your risk tolerance and what upside you're looking for. But there's every chance this does 6, 8, 10x from here. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. You can also go on to the likes of DeFi Llama, and I have it open here already. So you have on DeFi here, you can see the total value locked. So currently about 5.6 billion. At its height, I think it was around 10 billion, if I remember rightly. Yeah, you've about 10 billion there at its height. So it's had more than double this locked in TVL. You can see in recent times it started to climb again. If it were to get back to its previous all-time high of 10 billion locked, does that suggest then that it would go back to its previous all-time high in market cap and therefore, price? You would think it's reasonably likely. So it's well established. It's probably, in a world that's all extremely risky, this is probably at the lower end of risk within DEXs because it's really well established, it's proven, it's successful, it's across 13 chains, and it would appear that it will only expand from here. So a good project. It's been around and it's tried and tested. So if we go back and see what other ones we have, the next one up is a DEX on Arbitrum. So Arbitrum is a layer 2 of Ethereum. So it's built on the rails of Ethereum using all the security of Ethereum, but they've got its own platform. It's a layer 2 and it would be seen to be faster and cheaper than the likes of Ethereum. And within that, it's got a perpetual DEX called GMX. So it's got low fees for leverage trading. It supports spot trading and derivatives. So again, it's just another DEX in the overall Ethereum ecosystem. Has it got room to grow? Well, let's have a look at DeFi first of all, or DeFi Llama. And you can see in here, its total value locked is 650 million. So obviously significant difference, about 1/10 or closer 1/9 of what's on Uniswap right now. Has it been higher than that before? Not particularly. Its all-time high is in around 700 million at 650 now. So it hasn't really been a whole lot higher than this before. Does that mean it can, will it gather attention this time round and go even higher? Potentially. What does it look like from a market cap? So again, you can see its all-time market cap here was, call it 650 billion. It's currently 280, roughly a 3x from here. Can it have a huge growth from here? I don't know. It's a good project. It's done quite well. Is it something that you would be investing in now with the hope of significant upside from here? Question marks on that. So all I'm doing here is showing you different types of ones out here, what you can look for when you're doing your own research. I'm trying to show you where you can look and get your information from there. Next up, we're going to look at Solana. If it'll come up for me, here we go. So a couple of the, I suppose, considered best DEXs and AMMs on Solana. So Radium will be well known. It's well established. It's there for a number of years. It's done quite well. It's the leading AMM with deep liquidity and a huge amount of all DEXs bring their liquidity via Radium. So Radium is interconnected with a lot of the other DEXs within Solana. And Solana has a number of new DEXs as well, which are probably worth looking into. But I'm looking at a couple of ones here that are well established. So both Radium and Orca then, which is a much lower market cap project. We're going to look at both of them here in a second. But it's simple and user-friendly Solana native AMM. It is focused on ease of use and low slippage, which of course is very good, particularly for beginners, but it also has high liquidity too, so still a very good project. So let's look at the two of them. So Radium, should have that on max and market cap. So this is Radium. So when I was doing videos on Solana a few weeks ago, this market cap was about 500 million. It's since gone to 1.6 billion, so it's done more than 3x already. Is there more room to grow? I would think so. If you consider the market cap of the likes of, as we said already, Uniswap, which hit 22 billion, and many would expect it to go much higher than there, can the likes of Radium, the top DEX and AMM on Solana being, of course, extremely popular at the moment, and I would think a big part of the reason that Radium has gone so high lately is a huge amount of the meme coins, and of course meme coins are a big narrative at the moment. A huge amount of them are coming out on Solana, and Solana's main DEX and AMM is Radium, so that's doing well off the back of that. Has it much more to run? Has it already done its growth, or is there more room to go? There's every possibility this can get to, the 20, maybe even 30 billion market cap. If we were to do that, if you were to call it, 2 billion right now, just to use a round figure, that's a sort of a 10, 15, maybe even 20x for a project that's so well established that that has high potential growth. Of course, I might go nowhere near those numbers, but it definitely has the potential. And then you need to decide, is Solana a good chain? Is there good activity on it? Is it likely to continue in that vein? And within that, will a DEX like Radium that's well established and has huge liquidity pools, will that do well within that place? And so if you're looking to go slightly out the risk curve from just buying, say, Solana, then this may be your opportunity to do that. And so again, if you look into Radium on DeFi Llama, you can see where it is and where it has been. So you can see now that it's TVL, its max in the past was 2.2. It's at pretty much the same number now. So it's reached the same sort of TVL as it has before. Is it likely to grow from here? You would expect so. How far up? Who knows? But overall, there's a lot of very positive aspects about Radium that are certainly worth considering. And then if you go further out, just bear in mind again, just to remind you, the market cap on that is 1.6 billion. If you look at the likes of Orca, it's only 174 million. So again, roughly, about 1/10, 1/9 the size. Orca is a very good exchange. It has done very well. It's established. And again, if you look at the max and the market cap, it's been around for quite a while, since September 21. Never got the full run of the bull run the last time round. Will it do this time? And if it does, and you can see it's had its all-time high more recently. If this thing is to gather a lot of attention, there's every possibility this could climb significantly higher. And if it was only to get to where Radium is right now, and Radium's already had a significant run, that's a 10x from here. If this can really gather attention as a significant alternative to Radium, and of course, again, being within the Solana ecosystem, there's a chance this thing could really run. And is it in the realms of possibility this could go to 3, 4, 5, 6, even 10 billion? It's definitely in the realms of possibility. If it were to do that, going from, say, 200 million here, roughly speaking, up to a 10 billion, that's over a 50x. I'm not suggesting for a second that that's going to happen. I'm just saying these are the possibilities that are out there when you look a little bit deeper into the overall ecosystem. And so there's loads of possibilities out there, and a lot of it just comes back to what's your risk tolerance, how far out the risk curve do you want to go, and what you think the potential upsides are. If you look at this project and think that looks interesting, do some research yourself. Some people are saying, how do you do that? I'm showing you. But on top of that, go into the likes of DeFi Llama, find the Orca in there. And then look, I've only just gone into TVL, but there's a huge amount of extra information there. Orca volume, the liquidity, the volume, the fees. You can see how much money they're making, what revenue they're making. These are all important figures. You can see here, for example, in summary, they're making, annualized about 8 million a year. Does their market cap, is it justified by the amount of money they're making? If their TVL grows, and you can see the TVL is starting to grow again, so it would suggest that it's starting to get used again. It suggests that there's a bit of attention coming in its direction. Then you would think that the potential for this is very significant. But again, do your research. I'm pointing you to places where you can do that. If you want to, if you're seriously considering buying into something like that, have a look yourself and get some conviction yourself. Go on YouTube, go on ChatGPT and ask and look into Orca and get some more information yourself. And if you really like it, then and you're happy that it's within your risk tolerance and you want to mitigate your risk across different chains and different projects, this might be one for you. And so on to our next couple. So that was a couple in Solana. The next one I want to look at, DEXs on a BSC, which is Binance Smart Chain. So obviously, Binance Smart Chain has run a long time. Of course, Binance is one of the biggest exchanges in the world. It gets a lot of attention. And within that, the biggest DEX is PancakeSwap, and the biggest lending and borrowing protocol is Venus. These are both projects that did extremely well in the last run. A number of reasons was because at that time, Ethereum was really was the main chain. The layer 2s hadn't really got huge adoption at that stage. And Binance Smart Chain, which is built on Ethereum chain, it got a lot of attention because its protocols, its DEXs, and its lending platforms were so much faster and so much cheaper by a huge magnitude. And on top of that, within the likes of Venus, you could borrow against, Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ripple, which you couldn't on the likes of Aave, its competitor on the Ethereum chain. So this got huge attention, and it grew really well, and it did extremely well. And certainly the likes of Venus, I owe it an awful lot from a financial perspective, because that is one I backed at that time and did really well. But can they do them again? We know they're established. Where are they now, and what are the potential? So let's have a look at PancakeSwap. Again, you can see its market cap back in the day was, call it 6.6 billion. Now it's about 545 million. So it's about 11, 12x to go from where it is right now, just back to where it was before, not to mention can it grow further. Of course, we must take into account at the time, there was less chains, less competition. There's now a lot of new DEXs out there. We've just looked at the likes of Solana, but there's others as well. And they also have DEXs on there now, which are fast and cheap. So can this gain that attention again, and maybe even more? Who knows for sure. But with a market cap of 6.6 billion in the past, can they go to that and beyond? It is a proven platform. And so could this go to 20 billion as an example? And if it could, from its current levels around the 500 million, that's a 40x from here. Not suggesting that's going to happen. I'm just saying these are the possibilities that are out there. And this is with an established project, and of course Binance behind it overall. So definitely an interesting prospect. I'm not saying for a second that, oh yeah, it's just definitely going to go to 20 billion. I'm just saying these are some possibilities that are out there, and it could be worth looking at. Let's have a look at what it's got to say on DeFi and DeFi Llama. So you can see here, again, back in the day, it had a total value locked of, let's call it 7.5 billion. Currently it's 1.8 billion. So again, you're looking at sort of a 3x or so. Will it gain that attention again? You can see there's signs of life here in 2024. If it establishes, and I think it will do well, it's just there's a lot of competition in the space now, including on Binance Smart Chain itself. So lots of great possibilities, a proven platform that has done very well in the past. Can it regain that attention and some? And if it does, then the upside could be huge. And again, look at all the additional tabs you can go into here to do a little bit more research yourself. And so then we go on to Venus. We already touched on Venus, a lending platform. I'm happy to say back in around here, I bought into this one around here. The 19th of November is actually when I bought into this, when it had a market cap of 18 million. As in you can see here, it went up to a market cap of 1.37 billion. So it was one that helped me out an awful lot. So there's a slight emotional attachment to this. Bear that in mind as I'm talking about it. So this one, like I said, it had a market cap of, let's call it 1.4 billion. It's currently at 126 million. So there's a huge potential upside, again, if this is able to gain a similar attention like it did before. If we look at Venus and DeFi Llama, again, you can see back in the day, it had a total value lock of about 6.7 billion. It's currently about just under 2. So again, it's like a 3 to 4x up from here. If it can gather that attention again, you can see its TVL is starting to move. It was, about 550 not so long ago. It's nearly 4 times that now. That would certainly suggest that it's gaining attention and some attraction again. So if you go back to the numbers again, can this gather that attention again? And bearing in mind, like we said, it's it's over a 10x just to get back to where it was before. If this was, for example, to get to a market cap of 4 or 5 billion, where it is from now, that's a huge upside. I'll let you do the math yourself. The potential is massive. So again, with an established project that technically we know runs, the team have done well. It's on the Binance Smart Chain. It was the first lending platform from Binance. They'll want it to succeed and succeed again. The upside potential for this is definitely very strong. And so again, well out the risk curve, but the potential upside on this is definitely very positive. And so you then need to make your decisions on whether this works for you. Does it fit into your profile? Or like I said, stay with Bitcoin or stay with Ethereum. They might do better than any of these. Who knows? And so finally, what I want is, I suppose, in conclusion, and I'm going to follow this up with part 2, so there is more to follow. We're going to look at a couple other chains and so on. But invest in ecosystems with high adoption potential. So again, you're looking at how many, and again, you can go in and look at this and do your own research on this. How many active addresses have they got? What's its total value locked? Do we see an incline in its total value locked in recent times over the last few months? Does it suggest it's getting back to being popular again? Because most of these are very established projects that I've shown you so far. Does the platform have an edge? So in the last couple I showed you there were way faster, were cheaper, and they had you were able to borrow against other cryptocurrencies that you couldn't on the likes of the previous ones, so the real advantage. And evaluate the liquidity and the TVL, which we've spoken about. So summary. DEXs and AMMs are pivotal to the DeFi ecosystem. They're the cornerstone. Platforms like Uniswap, Radium, and GMX and others have dominated. Others emerging DEXs and AMM solutions on the likes of Sui, Base, and Ton are worth watching. We're going to look at those next. So the point is, again, just bear in mind, look at the overall context. So you can just get into, Bitcoin and so on, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and maybe a couple other, top 10, top 20 coins. Sit on those and you could be golden. You might do extremely well, taking slightly less risk in what is, of course, overall a really risky space. Or you might be comfortable going further out the risk curve, and you might be looking at what are the new projects that are coming to the table that maybe have, no question, have higher potential, way outside the risk curve. And so you have to decide what's comfortable for you, and in your overall planning of your portfolio, what fits. And bear in mind, I've just shown you one section of DeFi. Not to mention all the other projects that we're going to start looking at in real world assets, DPen, gaming, metaverse, and so on. So bear that in mind. And ultimately, you don't want to have 100 coins. I'm telling you that now because you won't be able to follow them. You won't be able to keep up with them. And when the bull run really kicks into gear, you're going to be all over the place. You also, I believe, it's good to diversify. So maybe you want 5 coins, maybe you want 2, maybe you want 10, 15, or 20. But certainly, I personally wouldn't like to go outside those numbers. But each to their own, and everyone has to decide what fits in their portfolio. Hopefully you found that useful. Watch out for part 2, and we'll talk to you all very soon.